त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुते शिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकं चापि नमामि विद्ये। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या सम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितप्रज्ञानकणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ॐ प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। Pranams everyone. So we are in the second chapter, and Bhagavan had just given his first Upadesha to Arjuna, saying, wise men do not grieve. Panditaha na anushokshasti. So from there we understood that if wise men do not grieve, then ignorant men grieve, or ignorant people grieve. And if ignorant people have sorrow, then the cause of sorrow should be ignorance. And if ignorance is the cause for sorrow, then the relief from sorrow can come only from knowledge. And when we saw who Bhagavan mentioned as wise is people who have the knowledge of self. Atma-Jnanis do not grieve. So Atma-Jnanis grieve. So Atma-Ajnanam is the cause for sorrow, and Atma-Jnanam will be the solution for sorrow. So if Atma-Jnanam is the solution for sorrow, then we say, okay, who is this I, is self? Atma is self. Who is this self? And we did a vichara in terms of whom do we call as I, or whom do we refer as I. And when we actually did a vichara, we saw that I, sometimes we refer to the body, sometimes we refer to the mind, sometimes we refer to something other than the body and the mind also. So we have this I, the reference of I being denoted, or denoting the body, denoting the mind, or denoting other than the body and mind. And then we said shastras actually divide the bodies into three. There are three types of bodies. Physical body, the sthula shareera, which is the gross body that we are able to see, be aware of, and the others are also aware of this body. They are also able to recognize this body. That is the first type of body. Then the second type of body is called as sukshma shareera. Sukshma shareera is a subtle body. The subtle body, only we are aware of the subtle body. And it consists of 19 parts. The Pancha Jnanendriya, the 5 sense organs of knowledge, which is basically the ear, skin, eyes, tongue and nose. Then the Pancha Karmendriyas, the 5 organs of action, which is basically the mouth, the hands, legs, the excretion and the reproduction organs. And then we have the Pancha Pranas. The Pancha Prana is basically Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana and Samana. Prana is basically the respiratory system. Apana is evacuating system. Vyana is circulatory system. Samana is digestive system. And then the Udana is the reversing system. So total of 15. Then we have Manaha, Buddhihi, Chittam, Ahankara. Manaha, Buddhi, Chittam, Ahankaram. This is the emotional faculty, mind, the doubting faculty. Then the Buddhi is basically the rational faculty or the reasoning faculty, judging faculty. Then the Chittam is the memory, which is recording all our experiences from the past are recorded in this place. And then the Ahankara is basically the faculty of self-reference. It is that faculty which we refer to myself. When we say aham, me, this is the making ourselves self-conscious that this is me. That faculty is called as ahankara. So Sukshma shareera has got 19 components. And we saw that Sukshma shareera is only we are aware of it, the others are not aware of it. Then the third type of body is Kaarana shareera. Kaarana shareera is basically the unmanifest or the seed form of Sthula and Sukshma. And the Kaarana shareera is the storehouse of all our punya and papa. Nothing in this life is free. One common term that is used in today's world is there is no free lunch. And in the same way, there are no coincidences in life. There are no accidents in life. Everything has got a cost. Without cost, nothing happens. So, whatever we have got in this world, whatever body we have, whatever kind of parents we have, whatever life that we have had in our childhood, have all come out of our karma phala. So, karma is the cause for all the good and the bad that we get in this world. So this punya and papa that is stored in the Kaarana shareera. Now what happens is, when we talk about this Kaarana shareera, when does it come into being? It is anadi, it is beginningless. Only Sukshma shareera can measure time. In Kaarana shareera, there is no concept of time. So even during pralaya, the Kaarana shareera is always there. So the seed form of Sthula and Sukshma shareera, it does exist even during pralaya time. So as you know, when a jiva dies, the jiva takes over or goes into another body or takes up another body. So another Sthula shareera is got by the jiva. But during pralaya, what happens is all this Sthula, Sukshma shareera gets resolved into the respective Kaarana shareeras and it goes into this causal state. And when the pralaya, after the pralaya, when the shrishti happens, these causal bodies again take these Sthula and Sukshma shareera. So the causal body never dies. So the only way the causal body is destroyed is when the jiva gets moksha. Only when the jiva gets liberated, that is when the causal body is destroyed. Otherwise, the causal body does not have any destruction, not even during pralaya. So now we have understood Sthula, Sukshma and Karana shareera. Yes, Ashishji, you have a question?
Just a clarification. What isn't it that even in that situation, it merges with the Param Brahm rather than destroyed, right?
Yeah, when we say destroyed even during Pralaya, see, you can say that, yes. When we say destroyed here, it merges into the Samashti Kaarana.
Yeah.
Okay. It merges into the Samashti Kaarana. So
because that is how it should be Anant, right?
Correct. And we in Advaita Vedanta, in our Vedanta, it is never against science. Science says matter can never be destroyed, energy can never be destroyed or created. In the same manner, we say all these bodies go into the respective samashti and then they come back again. So when what we say is creation, it is not that the God created world in 7 days. We do not believe in that. We say the Srishti is actually a process of evolution, and there are steps to it by which the universe is created, the bodies are created, and all those things, which we had already done in the introduction to Vedanta. In any way, we will be covering this in the forthcoming chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So right now, what we have to understand is the Karana shareera is not destroyed even during Pralaya. The only time when it gets merged or destroyed is when the Jiva gets moksha. And that is what we are all vying for. We are all aiming for. Moksha. Now, as I said, when I say I refers to a mixture of one principle which is the awareness principle, the other principle which is the Anātma principle, the Atma principle and the Anātma principle. The Atma principle is awareness principle. The Anātma principle is jatam, inert principle. All these three bodies, the Sthula shareera, the Sukshma shareera and the Kaarana shareera, all these bodies are inert. They do not have any sense of awareness. They do not have the knowledge principle. They are not the consciousness principle. The consciousness principle is only the Atma. That's why when the life leaves the body becomes inert, jatam. At the time of death, when the life leaves the body becomes jadam. Therefore, we can say that the body by nature does not have consciousness. And that's why after the death, we don't refer that person as he or she. We say that body. The body has to be taken out. It has to be taken out. In Tamil, we say adu. Body edukanum, and the body edukanum. We don't say avar or aval. The body is inert by nature. All the three bodies are inert by nature. The awareness principle is a feature of Atma. So Atma is one who has these three bodies. To start with, let us understand this way. Atma is one who has these three bodies and one who is aware of these three bodies. So I am aware of Sthula. I know my physical body. I know I have got pain in my leg. I know I am dark in color or whatever. I am aware of my Sthula shareera. I am aware of my Sukshma shareera. I know what is in my mind. What sort of thoughts go in my mind? I am aware of my mind. Karana shareera, I am not aware, but I experience that in deep sleep. When I am in deep sleep, that's when the Karana shareera is experienced by me. That's why I said Karana shareera does not have time, because that's why when we actually wake up, we don't know how long we've slept unless we actually look out of the window or check at the clock. So the awareness principle is a feature of Atma. And this Atma is separate, is distinct, is different from the three bodies. So if we are going to do a kind of a discrimination or Viveka, basically Atma-Anatma Viveka, if we have to distinguish these two, then the first point that we have to remember is that which experiences is Atma. Atma is the experiencer, and that which is experienced is Anātma. So I experience my physical body, I am aware of my mind, and I am aware of other things around this body as well. So Atma is the one which is the experiencer, Anātma is the experienced. So in Sanskritam we say experiencer is Drig. Experienced is Drishya. Drig-Drishya. So we say Drig-Drishya Vivekam. And who are we when I say I? Right now, when I say I am a combination of these two. I am a combination of the experiencer as well as the experienced. Because I include the physical body in me. When I say I include my mind right now. So I is a combination of experiencer and experienced. But what I have to understand though is Drig is Atma, Drishyam is Anātma. This is the first point I have to remember. Now, experiencer obviously has to be a knowledge consciousness principle. Otherwise, it cannot experience. It cannot be a jatam. It cannot be a inert principle. It has to be a knowledge principle. It has to be a consciousness principle. Not conscience. Consciousness. Consciousness in shastras call it as chit. Chaitanyam, chit, we say. Consciousness principle, awareness principle, knowledge principle. It's called as chit. So the experiencer Atma is the consciousness principle. If the experiencer Atma is consciousness principle, the Anātma is jatam. It is inert. Because if Anātma is also an experiencer, then the Anātma can actually experience the Atma. But that is not what I am able to see. I am not saying the body is able to experience me. I am only able to say I am able to experience the body. I am aware of the body. The body is not aware of me. So, experiencer is the Atma, experienced is Anātma. The consciousness principle, and then there is the jatam principle, Anātma. So from now, which is the 12th, sloka number 12, until sloka number 25, with the exception of 14 and 15, Bhagavan is going to give features of Atma. What we have to do is we'll have to keep noting it down. And while we are noting it down, what we have to remember is put the opposite of that feature as the feature of Anātma. So whatever is Atma, Anātma is not that. So, for example, right now we say Atma is experiencer, then Anātma is experienced. Atma is Drig, Anātma is Drishyam. Atma is consciousness principle, Anātma is inert principle. When we say the next sloka, Bhagavan will say, sloka number 12, Atma is Nityaha, which means always there. Then Anātma is Anityaha. Then Bhagavan will say, Atma is Akarta, it is not the doer. Then we will have to put the opposite to Anātma. Anātma is Karta, and so on. After putting all these things, what do we finally arrive at, or what is the purpose of doing all these things? What we have to understand is, right now I am calling myself to be this body mind complex plus Atma. Now I have to understand, when we actually go through these slokas, we will have to understand that I have to understand that these are the features of Atma and Anātma, but I have to give up the notion that this Anātma is I. This Anātma is not me. I have to own up to that entity called Atma. That Atma is I, this Anātma is not I. This is called as Atma-Anatma Viveka. When we say Atma-Anatma Viveka, it is not about differentiating Atma and Anātma and then say, okay, there is a thing called Atma and there is a thing called Anātma, but I am this body and mind. That is not the way to do it. What we are going to say is, the benefit of this Viveka is to say, Atma is not a third person singular, it is the first person. I realize that I am not the Anātma, but I am the Atma. Karthik?
Yeah, Guruji, this Anātma is inert, right?
Yes.
And Anātma is also the doer.
Yes.
Contradictory?
We will come to that.
Okay, sure.
Because we haven't spoken about Akarta yet, so we'll come to that.
Okay, thank you.
Now, what is the benefit of knowing or understanding or realizing that is? That I am the Atma and I am not the Anātma. This sorrow, shokam that we experience, supposedly we experience, that shokam is for Anātma. I am not affected by that. For example, if someone calls me donkey, then we should realize that, or rather I should realize that it is actually, this word is attributed to either my action or to my body, or basically because of my mind. So that person is referring to this body or this mind or the actions of this body, and not to my original self, which is Atma. So anyone who criticizes me, scolds me, humiliates me, supposedly, that person is not criticizing or scolding or humiliating the Atma. They can only criticize the Anātma. And if I take myself to be the Atma, I have no reason to feel unhappy about it. So once we realize that I am the Atma, we will not blame any situation for the problems or difficulties that we face. The situation will remain, but my attitude towards the situation will change. My body and mind might be linked to the situation, but I will remove the Atma from that. I will not link the Atma. The Atma will never be included, will not be included. I will be separated from the incident. I will take that whatever is happening because of the dharma of Anātma. That is how Anātma will behave, or that is how Anātma will be. It's kind of subtle, but we will get there, we will understand that. So whatever is Atma Dharma that Bhagavan is going to teach from now on, we have to understand that that is me. I am that Atma. And Bhagavan, remember, how does Bhagavan start this, or why did Bhagavan start this? Arjuna was in a sorrow. And Arjuna is in deep sorrow because he knows that Bhishma and Drona are going to die. And they are going to die because of him. So if someone is in deep sorrow, then what we should do? First step is to give them relief from sorrow, and then only give Vedanta. If someone is in extremely sad situation, at that point of time we should not go Vedanta, because if we teach Vedanta at that point of time, the situation or the sadness will only worsen. So here Bhagavan, what does he do is, he is not teaching Vedanta here. What he is saying is, Bhagavan is saying, Arjuna, you are in deep sorrow. But what could be the reason? Maybe this is your reason. Maybe this is your reason. And he identifies 3 possible reasons why Arjuna could be in deep sorrow. And then going after one after the other, he says why this should not be the cause for your sorrow. Why you need not feel sorrow because of this reason. And he actually negates each of the reasons. So this is how Bhagavan introduces this tattva. So he doesn't... Remember, Bhagavan did not teach Vedanta when Arjuna was lamenting in the first chapter, or when Arjuna was in the second chapter also, when Arjuna was visibly very, very in deep grief. Even then Bhagavan did not give any upadesha to him. Only when Arjuna surrendered and said, Arjuna said, I need you to protect me, I need you to help me here, I need you to save me here. Then Bhagavan started giving this advice. So we have to understand that this is only for people who are asking for it, not for us to actually give them anything unsolicited. Now, how does Bhagavan solve this case, or rather Arjuna's sorrow? The first point he picks up is philosophical angle. From the philosophical angle, Bhagavan is trying to solve the problem for Arjuna. Then he says, okay, look at the ethical angle. At that angle also, Arjuna, you have to fight. And then from the worldly angle, then also you need to fight. So basically he gave a 3-tier argument: the philosophical approach, the ethical approach, and the simple worldly or materialistic approach. And Bhagavan says, or rather Bhagavan wants to say, whatever be the angle from which you see Arjuna, you will have to fight this war. So that is how Bhagavan has approached this. In this chapter you will see them. So here Bhagavan says basically, Arjuna, remember, Bhishma and Drona are also Atma-Anatma mixture, in the same way as you or me. They are also a mixture of Atma and Anātma. And he is asking Arjuna, are you sad because the Atma is going to die, or are you sad because the Anātma is going to die? So this is the first kind of googling that Bhagavan puts to Arjuna. Yes, Narsi?
one of the aspects is also from a duty kartavya perspective.
Uh-huh.
Why is Bhagavan not telling Arjuna that hey, this is the duty that you need to do? Why is he trying to go from three different aspects of sorrow and materialistic and all those things?
Okay.
Because when it comes from duty perspective, would all these things not become important?
Okay, maybe you should have, if you listen to actually the first chapter and the second chapter where Arjuna comes from, Arjuna says, this, even if it is my duty, I am happy to go to hell, because if it is my, if I fail to do this, even if I need to go to hell, I am willing to go to hell. So he has already given that point of view already. So Bhagavan is giving a different approach to all these things. And here you also mentioned that it is his duty here, but he will say, forget, because you have already said that you don't want to go to do it for the sake of duty, but let me answer it in such a way that you don't have a reason to feel sorrow about now. Okay. The idea is not to say that whether you feel sorrow or not, go and fight the war because it's your duty. The idea here Bhagavan wants to convey is, there is no sorrow in the first place. There is no need for you to feel sorrow about it. So why do you need to worry about whether it is your duty or not? First of all, there is no need, there is no confusion in the first place. So that's how Bhagavan will approach this, the whole Arjuna's sorrow. Maybe if you actually listen to the first few classes of the second chapter, you will get to know what Arjuna would probably what was his argument.
Okay, brother. Thank you.
So Bhagavan is going to say, there is no necessity, there is no need for you to feel sad. Because about Atma's death, you don't need to feel sorrow, you don't need to feel sad about it. And it is pointless, it is useless, it is senseless to feel sad about Anātma's death. So that is how Bhagavan is going to approach it. So Bhagavan says, Arjuna could then say, look, I don't differentiate about this Atma or Anātma, and I don't want to do any kind of adharma, because this is adharma, because Arjuna also mentioned that, killing this atatayana is adharma, because he was already deluded, he was confused, he was confusing between dharma and adharma. So Bhagavan was clear, he will explain that from dharma, adharma standpoint also, there is no need to feel sad. And that comes after the 25th sloka. So Bhagavan will do a kind of a step-by-step clarification to Arjuna that basically under no conditions you need to feel sorrow. So we'll take this 12th chapter, 12th sloka again, we'll read the sloka again. Then we'll continue. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Natpe Vaham Jatu Nasam Natvam Neme Janadipaha Nachaiva na Bhavishyamaha Sarve Vayamatah Param Natve Vaham Jatu Nasam Natvam Neme Janadipaha Nachaiva na Bhavishyamaha Sarve Vayamatah Param. So here, this sloka, Bhagavan is going to say, if you see Bhishma and Drona as Atma, then this Atma is never going to die. Atma is Nityaha. If you think you are going to kill their Atma, then you need not feel sorrow, because this Atma is never going to die. This is in the 12th sloka that he is going to say. Then later on, after explaining Atma, Bhagavan will, within this 12 to 24, he will also say, if you think that you are going to actually kill their Anātma, then Bhagavan will explain the attitude that one should have towards Anātma. He is going to say, there is no use in feeling sad about things that cannot be changed. Anything that cannot be changed by us, there is no need to feel sorrow or sad about it. He'll say, you will have to develop an attitude of acceptance. So there is no need to feel sad about a situation which is certain to happen, which is bound to happen, which is going to happen for sure. So here what Bhagavan says, death is certainly going to happen. If something is certainly going to happen, then we'll have to make sure if we are not the cause for the sorrow, so which means we cannot stop it from happening, it is going to happen for sure, then we have to accept it. Then if we accept it, it does not become the cause for our sorrow. The sorrow's cause is not the death. The sorrow's cause is the failure to accept that this is inevitable. And that is what Bhagavan is going to establish. So Bhagavan is going to say that the attitude that one should have towards Bhishma and Drona, Bhishma and Drona's Anātma, their body, should be of acceptance. And if Arjuna says, I don't want to kill them because it is adharma, then Bhagavan is going to say, killing them is Kshatriya dharma. By doing that way, in a step-by-step manner, the sorrow in Arjuna's mind will somewhat reduce. And what should the sorrow normally do? For a spiritually aware person, generally sorrow should give us vairagya. The sorrow that we face in life should give us vairagya, dispassion. The sorrow should give us some good values. That's why we say shoka itself is a yoga. It is actually a sadhana to convert the shoka to a yoga. We have to use sorrow to get our mind conditioned. Sorrow is a stepping stone for moksha. In fact, we can say there is no one who has come to jnana or moksha without going through sorrow. Sorrow is part of life. If you take the example of Gautam Buddha, he saw a dead body, he became sad, that's how he went for this one. Whether you take Pattinatha, he became unhappy that there is nothing that he could take to the next life. He became unhappy that whatever he is doing in this life is all fruitless, and therefore sorrow is a necessary step towards spiritual maturity. And that's why I say, after the Mahabharata war, when Krishna actually bade the Pandavas goodbye, and when he went to Kunti said, Krishna asked Kunti, so what do you want, Kunti? Kunti said, give me a lot of sorrow in my life, because only during sorrow I seem to remember you, and I want to remember you all the time, and therefore give me sorrow. There is a song also, Tunba Pudathil Ittu Tuyavanakina. Only sorrow will make our mind pure. So whenever we get into sorrow, instead of criticizing the person who gave us the sorrow or Bhagavan, what we have to understand is this is an opportunity provided by Bhagavan to purify our mind. But remember, sorrow should not be in our mind for too long also. If we keep the sorrow in our mind for too long, it will take other forms. It will take into depression, it may take into hatred, vengeance, and all those kind of negative qualities will come into our mind. So sorrow is needed, but only for a short time. We will have to let it go, we will have to convert that into dispassion, vairagya. That's why whenever we are in sorrow, whenever we go to a death or something, we see sorrow takes over, and then we say, what is life for? And then we talk about there is nothing in this world that this person has taken. He had so many, he had so much of wealth, he had so many kids, he had nice house, and yet he is not taking anything away. What kind of life is this? This vairagya will come. After all, what is this life meant for? We will even ask questions. But then it only stays for a short time. It's called as masana vairagya. Then after that, once we come back, we look for whether the coffee is not there, yet we get angry. And if we get the coffee also, if there is no sugar, or if it is not hot enough, we get angry. So the vairagya only stays for a short time. But to convert that sorrow to vairagya is a necessary step. So, but do not keep the sorrow in the mind for too long. So Bhagavan is going to give some quick relief and then turn that shoka into yoga by giving jnana and then finally ananda. So, Narsi, you still have something? Your hand is raised, that's why. Okay. So from here on, Bhagavan is going to give the features of Atma. Sloka 12, we saw here the key subject of this sloka, the purport of this sloka is Atma Nityaha. Atma is ever present. Now, when I say Atma Nityaha, Atma is ever present, then we will have to immediately understand that Anātma is Anityaha. And this is evident. We don't need a doctorate in philosophy to know that this body is Anityam. But what we don't know and what the shastras teach us here is the person who is aware of this body, that principle, that awareness principle is Nityaha, is ever present. And this is the concept that Bhagavan is giving in this shloka, but he is not giving it directly. Let us see how he gives this knowledge. Let us see how he gives this knowledge. If we take the shloka, he says, Natve vaham jatu nasam. Natu eva. Natve vaham. Natu eva aham. Natu eva aham. Jatu na asam. We'll leave the first two words for now. Natu eva, we will read. Aham na asam. I was not there. That is what it means. Aham na asam. I was not there. Bhagavan is saying, I was not there when Jatu, in the past. I was not there in the past. That is what Bhagavan is saying. I was not there in the past. Now if you add the first two words, Natu eva. Natu eva means such an idea is not at all true. Such an idea is not at all true. So in other words, and this Natu eva has to be used throughout. Natu eva, we'll see. So what Bhagavan is saying is, I was not there in the past is not all true, is not at all true. I was not there in the past is not at all true. He is basically giving double negative, which means I am always there. Bhagavan is using double negative. I was not there in the past is not at all true, which means I am always there. Next he says, Natvam neme janadipaha. Natvam. You were not there. Natvam. You were not there. And then we have to add that Natu eva again. Such an idea is not at all true. You were not there is not at all true. I was not there in the past is not at all true. You were not there is not at all true. Which means you have always been there. That is what Bhagavan says. Then what about the kings who have lined up in the war? He says, Ime janadipaha na. Neme janadipaha, we have to say it as Ime janadipa na. And then we have to add that natu eva again. So Ime janadipaha na means these kings were not there. These kings who have lined up for this war were not there. And then natu eva. These kings were not there is not at all true. Which means the kings have always been there. So what Bhagavan says is, I was not there in the past is not at all true. You were not there is not at all true. The kings were not there is not at all true. Which means, I am always there, you are always there, the kings were always there, or the kings are always there. What is Bhagavan conveying here? Bhagavan is saying, we have all been there. We have all been here throughout in the past. We have all been there. Then Arjuna could say, how does that matter? I am going to kill all these kings. So Bhagavan is going to answer that in the second line. He says, Na chaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. Again, let us keep that na chaiva separately. Na chaiva means na cha eva. Na cha eva means even this is also not true. What is not true? Na bhavishyamaha. We will not exist is also not true. We will not exist in the future is also not true. That means we will all exist. Sarve vayamatah param. All of us, sarve. Vayam sarve. All of us. Ataha param. All of us in the future. All of us in the future will also exist. Ataha param means after. What param? Param means after. After what? Asmat deha vinashat. Even after the death of the body, we all exist. After the destruction of the body also, we exist. So I was not there in the past. You were not there. The kings were not there. Such an idea is not at all true. All of us will not exist in the future. This is also not true. This is the purport of the meaning of this sloka. And what is the main lesson from this is, we all exist. Atma Nityaha. And that's why if we read on our own Bhagavad Gita, we will get confused. That's why we have to do a Shravanam from Sampradaya Guru who had actually understood it from their Guru and so on. So what we have to understand is, we are never in doubt whether we exist now or not. We always know we are existing now. There is no question about it. The question is about the past and the future only. Whether we existed in the past, whether we will exist in the future. And Bhagavan says, you, me, he is addressing Arjuna. Arjuna, you, me, and the kings were in the past and they will also be in the future. And why could Bhagavan just say, simply say, we all exist? Why does he use double negative? It's an emphasis. It is to emphasize. It is to make sure that he understands the importance of it. Suppose, for example, we go to another person's house and we give him a book and we ask him to bring it to my house tomorrow. Can you bring this back? Can you return it tomorrow? That is one way to say. Suppose I want to emphasize that I need the book by tomorrow. We say, do not come without the book. Do not come without the book. Basically, double negative. That means we are emphasizing it. I need the book. So Bhagavan is using this double negative. It's actually a language in Tarka Shastra. And Bhagavan here is using exactly in Tarka Shastra, they say, to explain Satyam and Nitya. They will say, suppose we take a pot. The pot before it was made, was not there. So it's called as Prak Abhavaha. Prak Abhavaha means the pot before it was made is not there. This is one way of absence. Absence of a pot in the past. Then the pot exists now. But then after, suppose it breaks, then the pot also does not exist. There is another absence that is called as Dvamsam. We say Dvamsam or we say Pradvamsa Abhavaha. Prak Abhavaha, Pradvamsa Abhavaha. This is to say that something which does not exist in the past, something which does not exist in the future is called as Mithya. This is in Satya Mithya, the definition in Tarka Shastra. So Bhagavan is using the same definition to say it was not in the past is not true, it will not be there in the future is not true, and therefore we both exist now, and therefore we exist in all three states, and therefore we are Nityaha. So in the case of pot, the pot has not been in existence, then it has come into existence, then again it will go into non-existence. So all the things in this world, Bhagavan says, or Shastra say, are all Prak Abhavaha or Pradvamsa Abhavaha, including our body. Anything in this world is Prak Abhavaha or Pradvamsa Abhavaha. Even if you say mountains, oceans, whatever, there will be a time when it was not there in the past, or there will be a time in the future where it will not be existent. So everything in this world has a Prak Abhavaha and Pradvamsa Abhavaha. That it did not have an existence at one point of time, and that it will not have an existence after some point of time. So this is called as Anityam. This is how Tarka Shastra refers as Anityam. Anityam is something which has got Prak Abhavaha and Pradvamsa Abhavaha. That is called as Anityam. And Bhagavan is saying, you, me and the kings are not Anityam. Therefore, you, me and the kings are Nityam. So what is Nityaha? Anything which has no Prak Abhavaha and no Pradvamsa Abhavaha. So Atma, Prak Abhava, Pradvamsa Abhava, Rahitaha. Rahitaha means negation, not. So this is how Bhagavan has explained this in this shloka. And he's saying, Bhagavan is saying, Bhishma and Drona, Atma cannot be killed. And therefore you need not feel sad. If you look at life, generally, we all believe there is life after death. In our culture, there is life after death. In our culture, we believe in rebirths also. That is very clear. In only Sanatana Dharma, we have this rebirth concept. If you look at other religions, there's Abrahamic religions also, they may not believe in rebirth as in another life, another body after life, but they certainly believe in something after death. Because there is this so-called soul, they say will go to eternal hell, eternal heaven, or Jannat, or whatever. There is a belief that the body is not you, there is something other than the body which is you, which is all common across all philosophies, religions, and they also believe that there is something after death that happens. Only thing in our case, we extend it, we say not just after death immediately, but there is also a further birth. There is another birth, there is another birth. So Bhagavan is saying the Atma is always existing. Only the body is anityam. So Bhagavan is saying here, Bhishma and Drona's Atma cannot be killed. Therefore, Arjuna, there is no need for you to feel sad. And when Bhagavan says Bhishma's, Drona's Atma, we have to understand my Atma is also Nityaha. My Atma is Nitya, yours is also Nityaha. Everyone's Atma is Nityaha. Which means we can proudly claim that I am immortal. If I see myself as Atma, then I am immortal. I don't have death. If I see myself as body, then I have the same characteristics of Anātma. So which means death becomes inevitable. Death is inevitable. So if I understand myself as not the body, then I can say the body has death, but not me. This is the first feature of Atma that Bhagavan is explaining here. Atma-Anatma Viveka, first point, Atma Nityaha, Anātma Anityaha. Atma Nityaha, Arjuna, therefore don't feel sorrow. So he is going to explain further features of Atma in the coming classes. So we will see more features of Atma in the coming classes. Any questions or comments?
Balaji, just only one thing from my side. I will finish off the earlier episodes, and thank you very much for the good session today.
Thank you. Okay. If not, we will again meet in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.